Kris, just to confirm that Stuart Skinner will be playing in
Yes.
Is he planning on playing the full 60 or 30?
Not the full 60, first part of the game.
First part of the game.
Yes.
All right.
Do you like to sub goalies halfway in or let them go the full 40?
I think as we play later on the exhibition, go in the full 60. But early on, you're trying to get split up that time. So whether you do 30 minutes or split off after the second period, after the period's a little more easier transition. So, but with all the timeouts, it's easy to make that change of the goalies too.
While you're watching the game, do you have certain players that you and your staff are going, okay, these 4 or 5 guys or 6, 7 or whatever are a little more in your vision because you have to make some decisions?
Definitely we're looking at other guys a little more clearly. Last game at home against Calgary, I can't say that I was really looking at the fine details of McDavid. I felt he was pretty safe to make this team. And the other guys that, there's where they fit in our team. Yeah, we're watching them, and you got to be careful how much you're watching them, and also you're coaching a game and you're trying to follow along with the shifts and who's up next and all that stuff. But we definitely have an eye on certain guys, and and obviously putting them in different situations.
The expectation is Arvidsson and Skinner and Draisaitl probably get a look together here. What's your sort of approach to when's the right time to put those guys together? How many games would you like to see them in together before the regular season?
Lines will play probably 2 or 3 together as a group. I know most of our guys that are on our team, we've kind of made it that they're playing 4 games, and bulk of them more at the end of the preseason. So. Yeah, I think McDavid and Draisaitl, Ekholm, those guys are all playing about 4 games. Even Henrique and Brown, Janmark, I think everyone's slotted in for about 4 games. And as we get on, probably after this game, we'll get into more of this is what I anticipate our lineup looking like. And obviously, probably our 4th line, there's going to be a lot more fluctuation on what that line will look like just because we have so many guys trying out for that spot.
Just from a development standpoint, there's been a lot of talk in the organization about development. There's been some hirings made along those lines. Are there good opportunities in training camp to focus on that development? I'm thinking about Knoblauch playing with Draisaitl, or taking these young players that are in your organization and letting them feel what it's like to be next to some of these high-end guys. Is that part of the decision-making in camp?
I think we know a lot about the players, and we know how good they are and what type of player they are and who they typically play with to play their best. Now we have to balance on putting them in those situations. If you've got a player who's a goal scorer, he's probably better to play with a playmaker. But on the flip side of it, you have to look at what our lineup is. And, is he going to be playing with a playmaker, or is he more likely going to be playing a more role situation on we need him penalty killing, we need him a little more energy, playing 3rd or 4th line, and then having him play in those situations through exhibition. So, I think we're kind of giving him a little bit of both, trying to see what's best for those players, but it's not going to be perfect, but we're kind of going back and forth on that.
You mentioned the 4th line competition. Based on guys who weren't skating this morning, Hamlin, Peterson, Philp, Ryan, looks like they're all going to Winnipeg. Are they all playing center tonight? And is that kind of an opportunity to see them in a little bit of a head-to-head competition?
I think so. I know Winnipeg has a pretty good lineup playing at home as expected. I think it'll be a good opportunity for all those guys. We feel all 4 of them can be NHL centermen, whether it's this year or possibly next season. It's a good test for all of them. So we'll see exactly how they play. They're going to have some shifts against weaker competition. They'll probably have a lot of shifts against difficult competition. A lot of Scheifele out there, Lowry. Those aren't easy shifts against the centerman, and they'll be a test for most of the night.
I spoke to Troy Stetcher earlier today, and he feels like he's been in some places maybe where he's really excited to be here. That's why he signed a 2-year deal. He wanted to be in a winning environment. Hasn't been in that for a long time. He also said he has a lot of a bleep you kind of factor that he feels can help him on the end. What have you kind of known in the short time, what you've seen from Stetcher, and how you feel he can help you?
Well, I think he's had that attitude probably his whole career. We've seen it, just how hard he practiced, and last year battling through an injury that was really uncomfortable, really a nagging injury that ultimately pulled him out. But he fought and tried to stay in as long as he could, and through that all, we saw him hitting the ice, practicing, and going 100%, trying to get in the lineup, trying to make a difference, and having a really good attitude about it. But as a smaller guy who's probably been said he's not good enough, not big enough to play in the National Hockey League, you kind of have to have that attitude of, I can do it. I'm going to prove you guys wrong. And, he's continuing to do that. He's a hard worker with an outstanding attitude. And those are the kind of guys you have to, coaches really appreciate, but also the players in the room appreciate. So, there's a factor on what you can bring to the team when you're on the ice, but there's also a factor on what you bring to the team while you're not playing, whether you're on the bench or in practicing, pushing guys to be better. So, there's a lot of things to consider.
Kris, you said a few times in the last few months about kind of how ideal it would be to get Leon Draisaitl some kind of higher-end wingers, or I'm kind of paraphrasing, but what makes Jeff Skinner kind of suited for Leon and kind of maybe a step up, I guess?
A playmaker, a guy who can get Leon the puck, find open ice, can score goals. You look at his career, and I don't know, you're looking at, 25 to 40 goals a season. I think that's a pretty, not too many guys can say they scored 25, and he's done it continuously. Maybe one season he hasn't hit that mark, but I think that is the important part of it, just finding guys who can, score goals, make plays, but also being able to just not cheat the game and being able to play good defensively, because it's important. You need to score goals, but you look at the teams that have success in the regular season, definitely in the playoffs, it's teams that can defend. So those are attributes that we think he can bring.
Jeff's not the only new winger that Leon is getting, obviously. What are you kind of looking for as they get going into games eventually with Arvidsson in terms of the types of chemistry that you're looking for out of one like that?
Just finding what each other wants, how they play. As they play a little bit more, they'll know that on the breakout, this is probably where Leon is. He's going to be building speed. He's going to be a little bit lower. If it's not there, it's what's the next play, and maybe it's the winger that's out fire, who's wide, who's not slashing. Those are subtleties that each player has, and we have our systems, but you can't say that we're going to play this system all the time. Those systems are just guidelines. Those are kind of our structure, because you have to read off what the opposition does, and that's where you got to find out what your line mate's doing, what he's thinking. Same in the offensive zone, who goes to the net. If you got three perimeter guys who are reluctant to go to the net, who'd rather have the puck, well, ultimately somebody has to take control and say, I'm going to be going to the net. And whether that takes one game or a couple of weeks, but those kind of things, more time they play together, they'll figure it out, and they'll find out what should be done in each situation.